Hello guys, welcome to Sayin' What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku chose to rule Universe 7? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Reluctant Emperor. The Universe 7 sky, if such a thing could be said to exist, shimmered with colors no human language had words to describe. Goku floated in this cosmic expanse, his body relaxed but his mind unusually tense. The tournament of power had ended months ago, but its implications continued to reverberate through his consciousness. Entire universes erased with a gesture. Billions of lives dependent on the strength and skill of a handful of fighters. The capricious whims of divine beings deciding the fate of countless souls. He folded his arms across his chest, eyes fixed on the distant nebulae that painted the darkness. This wasn't like him, thinking about politics and responsibility rather than training. But something had fundamentally changed when he had witnessed Zeno casually erase multiple universes. Something had shifted in his understanding of his place in this cosmic hierarchy. Still brooding, Goku, the familiar voice of Whis floated toward him as the angel materialized nearby. Staff in hand. It's rather unlike you. Goku didn't turn immediately. I keep thinking about what Lord Beerus said, about how Universe 7 has the second lowest mortal level. Ah, yes. Whis tapped his staff once, creating a small holographic display of their universe. Though you saved it from erasure, Universe 7 remains remarkably chaotic. What would happen if someone tried to change that? Goku finally turned, his expression uncharacteristically serious. Not through destruction like Frieza or through fear, but through, I dunno, actually leading. Whis raised an elegant eyebrow, his perpetual smile revealing nothing. Are you proposing what I think you are, Son Goku? You've always avoided responsibility beyond protecting your loved ones. Yeah, well, Goku scratched the back of his head, a gesture unchanged since childhood. Maybe that's been part of the problem. I keep getting stronger, but the universe keeps getting into bigger messes. A gentle chime emanated from Whis' staff. How fascinating. Do continue. When I was training with you and Beerus, you said gods have responsibilities. They can't just do whatever they want. Goku's voice grew firmer. I'm not a god, but I'm strong enough to make a difference beyond just fighting whoever shows up threatening Earth. Indeed. Whis' eyes sparkled with something between amusement and intrigue. And what exactly would you propose? Goku took a deep breath. I want to rule Universe 7. The words hung in the cosmic void, seeming to echo despite the vacuum of space. Even to his own ears, they sounded foreign. Almost like someone else was speaking through him. Yet, for perhaps the first time in his life, Goku felt certain about something other than a battle strategy. My. Whis blinked several times, his composed demeanor showing the faintest crack of genuine surprise. That is, unexpected. And what would Lord Beerus say about this arrangement? He can keep destroying stuff. Goku shrugged. That's his job. Mine would be making sure there's something worth saving. Whis studied him for what felt like minutes, his ageless face unreadable. Then, suddenly, he yelled out, a melodious sound that seemed to ripple through the fabric of space itself. Oh my, the Grand Minister will certainly want to hear about this. He tapped his staff twice. Shall we inform him together? I believe this falls outside my authority to approve or deny. Goku nodded, his heart racing not with the familiar thrill of an impending battle, but with something entirely new, the vertigino. A sensation of stepping into uncharted territory. Let's go. The Grand Minister's chambers existed in a dimensional space beyond conventional understanding. Goku had been here once before, but even his battle-hardened senses struggled to comprehend the architecture that seemed to fold in on itself, existing and not existing simultaneously. You propose to govern Universe 7. The Grand Minister's soft voice belied the immense power Goku knew he possessed. How unusual. Mortals typically seek only their own advancement, not universal responsibility. I'm not saying I'd be good at it right away. Goku stood straight, resisting the urge to shift his weight from foot to foot. But I've seen what happens when nobody takes responsibility for the big picture. People suffer, planets die, and then Lord Beerus has to destroy even more. Quote, And what of your family? Your training? Your Saiyan nature, as you've described it? The Grand Minister's eyes, so similar to Whis', revealed nothing. That's the thing, Goku said, surprising himself with his conviction. Being Saiyan isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting what's yours. If the whole universe is my responsibility, then I'd be fulfilling my Saiyan nature by protecting it, wouldn't I? The Grand Minister exchanged a glance with Whis that contained volumes of unspoken communication. You understand that this is unprecedented. No mortal has ever been granted such authority. No mortal has ever reached the level of Ultra Instinct either, Goku countered, a flash of his old competitive spirit emerging. I've broken a lot of barriers already. For the briefest moment, Goku thought he saw the Grand Minister smile. Indeed you have. Very well, Son Goku. I will present this matter to the Omni King. His decision will be final. That's all I can ask. Goku bowed respectfully, another uncharacteristic gesture that somehow felt right in this moment. As they waited for the Grand Minister to return, Whis turned to him. You realize, of course, that ruling isn't like fighting. You can't solve everything with a Kamehameha wave. Yeah, I know. Goku looked down at his calloused hands, marked with decades of battle. But maybe that's what Universe 7 needs, someone who knows when to fight and when not to. And what of the other Z fighters? Vegeta, your sons. Goku's expression clouded momentarily. Vegeta's not gonna like it. But he understands duty better than anyone. Gohan and Goten. He paused. They deserve a universe that's not constantly on the brink of destruction. Before Whis could respond, a pulse of energy signaled the Grand Minister's return. Behind him floated Zeno, the childlike Omni King whose innocent appearance belied his absolute power over all existence. Goku. Zeno's face lit up with a smile. You want to be in charge of Universe 7? Yes, Lord Zeno. Goku knelt, not out of fear but respect. If you'll allow it. Zeno placed a finger against his chin. That sounds fun. Universe 7 would be more interesting that way. And if it doesn't work, I can always erase things. The casual mention of erasure sent a chill down Goku's spine, reinforcing his resolve. I'll make sure that's not necessary. Okay. Zeno clapped his hands together. Goku is now in charge of Universe 7. But you still have to play with me sometimes. Of course. Goku couldn't help but smile at the childlike deity's enthusiasm. Anytime you want. Quote. The Grand Minister nodded solemnly. Then it is decided. Son Goku, you are hereby appointed sovereign of Universe 7, subordinate only to Lord Beerus in matters of destruction. And to the divine hierarchy above. Your authority begins immediately. As the words were spoken, Goku felt an unusual sensation wash over him, not power in the conventional sense, but a connection. As if thousands of invisible threads were suddenly linking him to every corner of Universe 7. Knowledge began flowing into his mind. Civilizations he'd never heard of, conflicts on distant worlds. Threats lurking in the shadows between stars. Whoa, he staggered slightly, steadying himself against Whis' staff. Is this what Beerus feels all the time? To some degree, Whis replied. Though the god of destruction's connection is different. You're experiencing the life of the universe, not its potential death. It's overwhelming. Goku closed his eyes, trying to sort through the flood of information. Planets in distress, species on the brink of extinction, tyrants rising in Frieza's absence. And somewhere, deep in the cosmic background, a strange distortion that didn't seem to belong. You'll adapt, the Grand Minister said with surprising gentleness. Now, I believe you have a universe to attend to, Sovereign Goku. The look on Chi-Chi's face when he teleported into their kitchen and explained his new role would be forever etched in Goku's memory. You what? Her voice reached a pitch he hadn't heard since their early marriage years. You decided to become ruler of the universe without even discussing it with me first. Well, technically just Universe 7, Goku corrected, immediately realizing his mistake as Chi-Chi's face reddened further. Oh, just Universe 7. Well, that makes it completely reasonable then. She slammed down the dish she was washing with enough force to crack it. 20 years of marriage, and you still make life-altering decisions. Ions without even considering how they affect your family. Goku winced. Chi-Chi, I know it sounds crazy, but crazy. She advanced on him, pointing a soapy finger at his chest. Crazy was entering martial arts tournaments without telling me. Crazy was disappearing for years to train. This is. To his shock, her anger suddenly crumbled, replaced by something he rarely saw in his strong-willed wife, fear. This is you leaving us again, isn't it? No. Goku grasped her shoulders gently. That's exactly why I'm doing this. So I don't have to keep leaving. So our family, Yon's families, can be safe without me having to die or disappear for years. I'm taking responsibility, Chi-Chi. Isn't that what you've always wanted? She looked up at him, tears forming in her eyes. Not like this. Not on a scale where I can't even comprehend what it means. Her voice softened. What does ruling a universe even look like, Goku? Where would you live? What would you do? He faltered. He hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know exactly, but I know I need help. People who are smarter than me about organizing things. Chi-Chi's expression shifted subtly. You're actually serious about this? Yeah, he nodded, relieved she was beginning to understand. I need to gather everyone. Bulma, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta, Krillin, everyone. We need to figure this out together. After a moment of silence, Chi-Chi sighed deeply. Fine, I'll call Bulma and tell her to arrange a meeting at Capsule Corp. But Goku, her eyes met his, filled with a complex mixture of emotions. I married a fighter, not an emperor. I don't know what this means for us. The weight of her words settled on him with more gravity than any training equipment he'd ever used. I don't either, he admitted. But we'll figure it out. Together. Capsule Corporation's largest conference room had never held so many powerful beings at once. Around the circular table sat the defenders of Earth, Expressio. NS ranging from skeptical to intrigued as Goku explained his new position. Let me get this straight, Vegeta's voice cut through the murmurs following Goku's announcement. Kakarot, the same Saiyan WHO can barely remember to change his clothes, is now the ruler of our entire universe. That's basically it, yeah. Goku nodded, unperturbed by Vegeta's characteristic disdain. Ha 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 ha. Vegeta's laughter echoed off the walls. The prince of all Saiyans, now subject to a third-class warrior who doesn't know the first thing about governance. The cosmic irony is almost too much to bear. Vegeta, that's enough. Bulma's sharp tone cut through her husband's mockery. She'd been unusually quiet during the explanation, her brilliant mind visibly processing the implications. This isn't about Saiyan hierarchy. This is about the survival of our universe. Indeed, Piccolo's deep voice commanded attention from the corner where he stood with arms folded. The tournament of power showed us how precarious our existence is. Perhaps having someone with Goku's power actively working to stabilize the universe isn't the worst idea. But Dad, Gohan leaned forward, his scholarly instincts evident. Ruling requires infrastructure. Advisors, communication systems spanning galaxies. The logistics are mind-boggling. That's why I called all of you here. Goku looked around at his friends, his family. Really. I can't do this alone. I need help. Well, you've certainly come to the right place for technology. Bulma stood up, pacing as she often did when her mind was racing. Capsule Corp has been working on interstellar communication systems since the Frieza incident. We could adapt them for universal governance. And I can contribute knowledge from the Namekian archives, Piccolo added. Our people have records of universal governance systems dating back millennia. The Galactic Patrol would certainly be interested in this development, Yako piped up from the end of the table. I'll need to report this up the chain of command. What about King Kai? Krillin suggested. He's been monitoring Northern Quadrant activities for centuries. He must have valuable insights. As the discussion continued, Goku felt a strange mixture of relief and disorientation. This was familiar territory for his friends. Problem-solving, planning, organizing, but entirely foreign to him. He'd always been the one who showed up when needed, fought the battle, and then returned to training. This steady, methodical approach to a problem was unprecedented in his experience. Excuse me, a soft voice interrupted from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Whis standing there, smiling enigmatically. I hope I'm not intruding, but I thought you might appreciate some divine perspective on your planning. Whis, Bulma exclaimed. Perfect timing. We could use some guidance on how other universes handle administration. About that, Wisp glided into the room, tapping his staff once on the floor. A three-dimensional hologram of Universe 7 appeared above the table, zooming in to show various planetary systems. Most universes have evolved natural governance structures over billions of years. Universe 7, however, has suffered from, shall we say, disruptive influences. Like Frieza, Vegeta growled. And Buu, Majin Buu, Cell, and countless others, Whis agreed. These repeated extinction evil events have prevented stable universal governance from developing, which makes Goku's position both more challenging and more necessary. So where do we start? Gohan asked, adjusting his glasses. With a center of operations. Whis replied, a place from which Sovereign Goku can monitor universal activities and respond as needed. Sovereign Goku, Vegeta repeated with a smirk. I still can't believe I'm hearing this. Technically, Whis continued, ignoring the interruption, the Grand Minister has authorized the creation of a new dimensional nexus specifically for this purpose. A plaque. Accessible from any point in the universe through certain methods. Like instant transmission. Goku perked up. Similar, though more stable. This nexus would exist partially outside normal space-time, allowing for more efficient governance of a universe spanning billions of light years. Bulma's eyes widened. You're talking about building a structure that exists outside conventional physics. The scientific implications are staggering. Indeed, Whis smiled at her enthusiasm. And given your expertise, Ms. Bulma, the Grand Minister suggested you might assist in its design. Me. Bulma's voice rose an octave. Work on a project with divine beings. Using principles beyond current scientific understanding. Your technological intuition is unusual for a mortal, Whis said. It has not gone unnoticed in celestial circles. The look that passed between Bulma and Vegeta contained volumes, pride, concern, excitement, uncertainty. But most noticeably to Goku, who had known Bulma longer than anyone in the room. There was a spark in her eyes he hadn't seen since their earliest adventures together. Well, she said finally, composing herself, I suppose someone has to make sure T's place has decent food replicators and bathrooms. Count me in. Excellent. Whis tapped his staff again, and the hologram shifted to display a strange geometric structure that seemed to fold into itself. Construction will begin immediately. In the meantime, however, there is a more pressing matter requiring attention. The hologram shifted again, zooming in on a distant quadrant of the universe. A system of 12 planets orbiting a dying star came into focus. The Helio Confederacy, Whis explained. A relatively advanced civilization facing imminent destruction as their star enters its red giant phase. They have technology for interstellar travel but lack the resources to evacuate all 12 worlds before catastrophe. Their scientists estimate complete stellar collapse within 3 standard months. And they're expecting, what? A miraculous intervention. Vegeta scoffed. Actually, they've begun fighting among themselves for evacuation priorities, Whis replied grimly. 3P. Linnaeus have already declared war on the others. Without intervention, billions will die, either from the star's collapse or from their own conflict. Goku stared at the hologram, a strange feeling settling in his chest. Previously, distant tragedies wouldn't have registered in his consciousness. Now, with his new connection to the universe, he could almost feel the fear and desperation of those people he'd never met. Species he'd never seen. We need to help them, he said simply. That's your first official act as ruler. Stepping into a civil war. Piccolo asked, not critically but thoughtfully. It's what I've always done. Goku replied, help people who need it. The only difference is I'm not waiting for them to threaten Earth first. A noble sentiment, Whis said. But how precisely do you intend to help? Even with your power, evacuating billions of individuals would take time you don't have. Goku closed his eyes, focusing on the strange new awareness that linked him to the universe. He could sense the Helio system now, 12 worlds teeming with life, fear pulsing through their populations like a racing heartbeat. We don't evacuate them, he said finally, opening his eyes. We move the star. Silence fell over the room. Move a star. Gohan was the first to recover his voice. Dad, that's possible, Bulma interrupted, her fingers already dancing across her tablet. Theoretically possible, at least. With sufficient energy applied in the correct vectors, a star's trajectory could be altered enough to prevent planetary destruction while maintaining habitable orbits. The energy requirements would be astronomical, Piccolo objected. Good thing we have some astronomical power sources right here, Bulma countered, looking pointedly at Goku and Vegeta. HMPH. You expect the Prince of all Saiyans to become a cosmic tugboat. Vegeta crossed his arms defiantly, but Goku could see the calculation in his eyes. I expect the Prince of all Saiyans to show the universe what Saiyans are truly capable of, Goku replied evenly. Not just destruction, but preservation. Unless you don't think you're strong enough. The challenge hung in the air between them. For a moment, Vegeta's scowl deepened. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. Using my pride against me, Kakarot. Perhaps you're learning something about leadership after all. He stood up, cracking his knuckles. Fine, let's move a star, but don't think this means I accept you as my ruler. Wouldn't dream of it, Vegeta. Goku grinned, feeling for the first time since his appointment that maybe, just maybe, this impossible task might actually work. The Helio system blazed through the viewport of the spaceship Bulma had hastily commissioned for the mission. Despite Goku's ability to teleport, the complex operation required technology, supplies, and support staff that couldn't simply be transmitted through space. Final approach to Helios Prime, announced the navigation system, a modified Versio. N of the same AI that ran Capsule Corporation's more advanced facilities. Local authorities have been notified of your arrival, Sovereign Goku. Still feels weird being called that, Goku muttered, adjusting the formal clothing Bulma had insisted he wear for this first diplomatic mission. The fabric was lighter and more flexible than it looked, designed to accommodate sudden power-ups if necessary. But it felt strange against his skin after decades of wearing nothing but fighting GI. Better get used to it, Bulma replied from her command station, where she was monitoring the star's conditions. Her blue hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, but she somehow managed to look elegant even in the utilitarian environment. First impressions matter in politics, even more than in battle. I still say we should have just shown up, moved the star, and left, Vegeta grumbled from where he stood with arms crossed near the rear of the bridge. All this diplomatic nonsense wastes time they don't have. And creates panic we don't need, Piccolo countered. He had insisted on joining the mission, claiming his strategic mind would be useful. A sudden approach by unknown powerful beings might trigger defensive measures, regardless of our intentions. Besides, Bulma added, we need their cooperation. The star-moving technique I've developed requires synchronized energy application from specific points in their system. We need their scientists' local knowledge. Goku nodded, remembering the complex equations and diagrams Bulma had explained during their journey. Though much of the physics had gone over his head, he understood the core concept. He and Vegeta would channel their ki through specially designed amplifiers positioned around the star, gradually altering its trajectory without disrupting the delicate gravitational balance of the planetary system. The ship's communications system chimed. Incoming transmission from Helios Prime Unified Command. Put it through, Bulma ordered. The viewscreen flickered, revealing a being that resembled a cross between a human and an insect. Exoskeletal features framing surprisingly expressive eyes, mandibles that clicked softly as they spoke. Unidentified vessel, you have entered Helio Confederacy space claiming diplomatic status. Identify yourselves and state your purpose immediately. Bulma nudged Goku forward. They had practiced this, but the formality still felt awkward. I am Son Goku, Sovereign of Universe 7. He managed not to stumble over the words. We've come to help you save your people from your dying star. The being's compound eyes flickered with what might have been surprise. Universe 7 has no central authority. All previous interactions with extrasolar civilizations have been through the Galactic Patrol or other entities. The hesitation suggested knowledge of Frieza's empire. Things have changed, Goku said simply. We know your star is collapsing, and we have a way to prevent the destruction of your worlds. Impossible. A new figure pushed into view, another of the insectoid beings, though with more ornate exoskeletal patterns that suggested higher rank or age. Our scientists have explored every possibility. The star's collapse is inevitable, unless you possess technology far beyond known science. We do, Bulma interjected, stepping forward. And something beyond technology as well. Allow us to demonstrate, Goku suggested. Without waiting for permission, he pressed 2 fingers to his forehead, focused on the energy signature of the being he was speaking with, and vanished from the bridge. An instant later, he materialized directly in the command center of Helios Prime, surrounded by startled insectoid officials who immediately reached for weapons. Please, Goku raised his hands in a gesture of peace. I'm here to help. Just listen. The next hour was a blur of explanations, demonstrations of power, a small but impressive key display that left the Hellion scientists buzzing with excitement. And negotiations. Despite his discomfort with formal diplomacy, Goku found that his straightforward nature actually served him well. The Hellions, facing extinction, had TTLE patience for political maneuvering themselves. By the time he teleported back to the ship, bringing 3 Hellion officials with him, a tentative agreement had been reached. The Hellions would provide astronomical data and cease their internal conflicts. In return, Goku and his team would attempt to save their civilization. Impressive, Piccolo commented as the Hellion scientists huddled with Bulma over star charts and energy calculations. You managed to negotiate peace between warring factions in under an hour. I just told them the truth, Goku shrugged. That if they kept fighting, we'd leave and let them die. Vegeta chuckled darkly from nearby. Perhaps there's something to this ruling business after all. 3 days later, Goku floated in space near the dying star, protected from its intense heat and radiation by a specialized barrier Bulma had designed. Around the massive red giant, 12 devices had been positioned at precise coordinates, each containing technology that would amplify and direct key energy. In his ear, a communication device buzzed with Bulma's voice. All amplifiers are in position and functioning. Hellion scientists confirm stellar models are stable. We're ready when you are. Vegeta, Goku asked through the same system. In position, came the gruff reply. Let's get this over with. Goku closed his eyes, centering himself as he had countless times before battles. This was different, though. Not destroying, but preserving. Not fighting against something, but working with the fundamental forces of the universe. Beginning power channeling in 3, 2, 1. Goku reached deep within himself, drawing forth his ki not in the explosive burst of a Kamehameha, but in a steady, controlled flow directed toward the nearest amplifier. The device hummed, its crystalline components glowing blue as they received, magnified, and redirected his energy into the stellar mass. Across the star, Vegeta did the same, his energy manifesting as a more aggressive violet hue but equally controlled. For warriors accustomed to unleashing their power in combat, this precision work required unprecedented concentration. Energy levels at 30% of required threshold, Bulma reported. Stellar mass responding to gravitational manipulation. Keep it steady. Sweat beaded on Goku's forehead despite the regulated temperature of his protective field. This was different from the momentary exertion of a battle. This was sustained power output requiring perfect control for hours. He could feel the immense gravity of the star fighting against their efforts, new, clear processes that had continued for billions of years resisting this new influence. Vegeta, he called through the comm, we need to synchronize better. I can feel our energies working against each other in some places. Then stop disrupting my rhythm, Kakarot. Came the strained reply. Follow my lead for once. Actually, Bulma interjected, the models show Goku's approach is more aligned with the stellar dynamics. Vegeta, you need to adjust your energy frequency to match his. A string of Saiyan expletives followed, but Goku felt the change almost immediately, Vegeta's energy harmonizing with his own, creating a more coherent force acting on the star. The sensation was strange, almost intimate in a way their battles had never been. Fighting against each other or side by side, they had maintained separate energy signatures. Now, they were truly working as one. Energy synchronization at 95%, Bulma reported, excitement evident in her voice. Stellar trajectory shifting 0.02 degrees. 0.05 degrees. We're doing it. Hours passed in this state of intense concentration. Twice, they had to pause briefly when energy fluctuations threatened to destabilize the star's already precarious nuclear processes. But each time, they adjusted, refined their approach, and continued. Final vector adjustment complete, Bulma announced finally. New stellar trajectory confirmed stable. Helios system is saved, at least for the next few thousand years. Exhausted, Goku let his power level drop gradually, careful not to create sudden energy shifts that might undo their work. Across the star, he sensed Vegeta doing the same. We did it, he breathed, allowing himself to float limply in the protective field. We actually moved a star. Correction, Vegeta replied, his voice hoarse with exertion but carrying an unmistakable note of pride. Two Saiyans moved a star. Remember that, Kakarot. I will, Goku promised, gazing at the massive stellar body now following a subtly different course through space, one that would spare the 12 worlds depending on it for life. I definitely will. The celebrations on Helios Prime were unlike anything Goku had experienced. The insectoid beings, so coldly practical during negotiations, transformed into exuberant celebrants once their survival was assured. Their method of celebration involved complex synchronized movements that resembled both dance and martial arts. Performed by thousands in patterns that spiraled through their capital city. They're expressing their cultural heritage, Piccolo explained as they watched from a viewing platform. According to their historians, these patterns haven't been performed in generations. Too much resource competition made such collective activities impractical. And now they have time again, Goku observed, feeling a deep satisfaction unlike any post-battle high. Indeed, a new voice joined them, one of the elder Hellions, their exoskeleton bearing elaborate markings of leadership. You have given us more than survival. Sovereign Goku, you have given us our civilization back. I just did what needed doing, Goku replied honestly. Nevertheless, the Helio Confederacy acknowledges your authority as sovereign of Universe 7. The elder performed a complex gesture with their upper limbs. Our scientists, our warriors, our resources, all are at your disposal should you require them. Actually, Goku said, an idea forming, there is something you could help with. Later that evening, as they prepared to depart, Bulma reviewed the agreements reached with the Hellion leadership. They're sending 12 of their best scientists and 30 engineers to help construct the Universal Nexus, she reported, scrolling through her tablet. Plus, they've agreed to serve as a regional hub for your new governance network. Not bad for your first diplomatic mission. Indeed, Whis commented, having rejoined them after observing from a distance. The Grand Minister will be pleased with this outcome. I still can't believe we pulled it off, Goku admitted, watching through the viewport as Helios Prime receded behind them. Moving a star, making peace between planets that were ready to destroy each other. Get used to it, Kakarot, Vegeta said, his tone uncharacteristically contemplative. This is what ruling means, making the impossible possible through sheer force of will. There will be harder challenges ahead, Piccolo warned. Not all species will be as receptive to outside intervention, even well-intentioned. I know. Goku turned from the viewport, facing his friends, his council, now. But for the first time, I feel like we're not just reacting to threats. We're building something. Building what, exactly? Bulma asked, setting down her tablet. Goku considered the question, finding himself reaching for concepts he'd never bothered with before. A universe where power serves life, not death. Where being strong means protecting the weak, not exploiting them. He grinned suddenly, his old self shining through. A universe worth fighting for. As the ship accelerated to faster than light speed, heading back toward Earth, Goku felt the countless threads of his new awareness stretching across the cosmos. Planets in turmoil, species struggling for survival, ancient threats stirring in distant corners. And somewhere, just beyond his perception, that strand. Distortion he'd sensed earlier, growing stronger, more defined. Whatever it was, he would face it not as a solitary warrior, but as the sovereign of Universe 7, with friends and allies across the cosmos. The thought should have been comforting, but as Earth grew closer, another reality weighed on him. How to reconcile his new cosmic role with the husband and father he had always been, however imperfectly. Chi-Chi was waiting. Mount Paozu hadn't changed in the weeks since Goku's departure. The same forest surrounded their modest home, the same laundry fluttered on the line, the same smoke curled from the chimney. Yet as Goku approached, having teleported from Capsule Corp after their return to Earth, everything felt different. He found Chi-Chi in the garden, harvesting vegetables with the practiced efficiency of decades. She straightened when she sensed his presence, turning slowly to face him. "You're back," she said simply, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yeah." He stood awkwardly, unsure of his welcome. "We saved them, the Helio system. Billions of people." "I know." Gohan called. "He said you and Vegeta moved a star." A hint of pride crept into her voice despite her evident reservation. "It was mostly Bulma's plan," Goku admitted. "She's amazing with that stuff." Chi-Chi's expression shifted subtly at the mention of Bulma, something Goku couldn't quite interpret passing behind her eyes. "And now, what does the great sovereign of Universe 7 do next?" The formality in her voice stung more than any physical blow ever had. "Chi-Chi, I'm still me. I'm still your husband. Are you?" She gestured toward his formal attire, so different from his usual GI. "The Goku I married could barely remember to come home for dinner. Now you're responsible for an entire universe." "I know it's a lot," he conceded, taking a tentative step closer. "And I don't know exactly how to balance everything yet. But Chi-Chi, for the first time, I'm not just training for the next fight or the next tournament. I'm building something that could last, something that might mean Gohan and Goten never have to fight for their lives again." She studied him silently for a long moment, her dark eyes searching his face. "When you left for the Tournament of Power, you promised to come back and be a farmer. Do you remember?" "I do." He nodded solemnly. "And part of me still wants that simple life. But after seeing what I've seen, knowing what I know now, you can't ignore it." She finished his thought with surprising gentleness. "That's always been your strength and your weakness, Goku. When you see someone in trouble, you can't look away." "No," he agreed. "I can't." Chi-Chi sighed deeply, then, to his surprise, closed the distance between them and straightened his formal collar with practiced hands. "Well, if my husband is going to rule the universe, he should at least look presentable while doing it." Relief flooded through him. "Does this mean?" "It means I'm still figuring it out too," she replied honestly. "But we've weathered stranger things in our marriage. At least this time you're not dead." Goku laughed, the tension breaking. "That's definitely an improvement." "So," she stepped back, hands on her hips in a gesture so familiar it made his heart ache with love, "where is this universal palace going to be? Because I'm not raising our sons in some cold, alien place, sovereign or not. Actually," Goku scratched the back of his head, "Bulma and the others are designing it with living quarters for everyone. And it'll be accessible from anywhere, so we could still keep this house." "Good." Chi-Chi nodded decisively. "Because universe or no universe, you still need a home to come back to." Home. The word resonated through him, connecting with that new cosmic awareness in unexpected ways. Home wasn't just this house on Mount Paozu. It was Earth, it was his friends, it was the feeling of belonging that had anchored him through every battle and transformation. As ruler of Universe 7, perhaps his task wasn't to control or command, but to extend that sense of home, of safety and belonging, to beings across the cosmos who had never known it. "You're right," he said, taking Chi-Chi's hand. "I always need a home to come back to. And now, maybe I can help others find theirs too." As the sun set over Mount Paozu, casting long shadows across their small farm, Goku felt the weight of his new responsibilities balanced against the familiar comfort of Chi-Chi's presence. The universe was vast beyond comprehension, filled with wonders and terrors he was only beginning to perceive. But here, in this moment, he was simply Goku, husband, father, protector. Tomorrow, he would return to the work of building his universal administration. Tonight, he would remember why that work mattered. In the distant reaches of space, unnoticed by even Whis' vigilant awareness, the cosmic distortion pulsed once, twice, like a heartbeat awakening after long dormancy. Something ancient was stirring, drawn perhaps by the unprecedented shift in universal governance. Something that remembered the Saiyans of old. Chapter 2. Hearts of Warriors. The universal nexus materialized like a dream-given form. Impossible geometries of crystalline material suspended in dimensional space that existed both everywhere and nowhere. Curved walkways spiraled between floating platforms that served as command centers, living quarters, training facilities, and diplomatic chambers. At its heart stood the Sovereign Sphere, a perfect orb of translucent material that allowed Goku to monitor disturbances anywhere in Universe 7. 6 months had passed since the Helio crisis. 6 months of constant construction, diplomatic missions, and the establishment of what Bulma called governance infrastructure. 6 months that had transformed the carefree fighter into something else. Not quite a king, not quite a god, but undeniably a leader. Energy fluctuation detected in Sector 447, announced the Moni Turing system in a voice eerily similar to Bulma's. Pattern matches previous disturbances. Goku opened his eyes, focusing on the holographic display materializing before him. A distant galaxy pulsed red, one of dozens showing similar anomalies in recent months. Same signature as the others? He asked, his tone more measured than it would have been a year ago. Affirmative, the system replied. Temporal displacement followed by energy pattern consistent with Saiyan biology, but altered. Goku frowned. These mysterious energy signatures had been appearing with increasing frequency, always Saiyan-like, always distorted. Always vanishing before he could investigate personally. As Whis available, Lord Whis is currently attending Lord Beerus. Estimated return: 17 hours. Goku sighed. Despite their initial agreement, the god of destruction had shown minimal interest in the new universal governance structure, preferring his naps and meals to actual administration. Whis, while more helpful, still prioritized his duties to Beerus above all else. Alert Vegeta and Piccolo. I want. The system interrupted, a rare occurrence that immediately captured Goku's attention. Priority. Transmission incoming from Sadala Colony. Sadala. The name triggered something in Goku's memory, knowledge transferred during his appointment as sovereign. The new Saiyan settlement. Affirmative. Established 4 months ago under Universal Restoration Project guidelines. Population: 643 transplanted Universe 6 Saiyans. Put it through. The holographic display shifted, solving into the face of a young Saiyan woman with spiky black hair pulled back in a wild ponytail. Her features were sharp, intense, with a perpetual challenging look that reminded Goku of Vegeta in his younger days. He recognized her immediately. Caulifla. About damn time, she snapped, her image flickering slightly with the distance of the transmission. We've been under attack for 13 hours. Where's your famous universal protection? Now, sovereign. She spat the title like an insult. Goku straightened, pushing aside the mystery of the energy disturbances. What kind of attack? How many hostiles? Some sort of, I don't know, space pirates. Calling themselves the Hera Resurgence, or something equally stupid. Explosions echoed in the background as Caulifla ducked momentarily out of frame. When she returned, a thin line of blood traced her temple. There's at least one capital ship and dozens of fighters. They're demanding we surrender the colony. Casualties: 17 dead, 40 wounded. We've evacuated the non-combatants to the underground shelters, but our defensive systems weren't fully operational yet. Another explosion, closer this time. Look, are you coming or not? Because if not, I need to get back to the fight instead of chatting with. I'm on my way. Goku pressed 2 fingers to his forehead, concentrating on Caulifla's energy signature. Hold position. 3 seconds. What are you? The transmission cut as Goku executed instant transmission, the familiar sensation of dimensional displacement washing over him. An instant later, he made a realize. Ed beside Caulifla in what appeared to be a hastily established command center. Monitors displayed various sections of a colony under heavy bombardment, buildings of Saiyan and Earth hybrid architecture partially collapsed or burning. Caulifla stumbled back, clearly not expecting his instantaneous arrival despite his warning. What the? How did you? Instant transmission, Goku explained simply, already assessing the tactical situation through the monitors. Where's their main ship? Recovering quickly from her surprise, Caulifla pointed to a particular screen showing a massive vessel hovering above the colony's central plaza. Its design was unusual, organic curves blended with mechanical components, giving it the appearance of a living entity rather than a constructed ship. They breached our upper atmosphere about 14 hours ago, she explained, professional despite her earlier hostility. Claimed to be traitors initially, then launched the attack once our defense grid identified them as unauthorized. How many Saiyans are combat ready? 83 with significant power levels. The rest are civilians or still in training. Caulifla crossed her arms, her posture defiant. We could have handled it ourselves if our defense systems were operational. I'm sure you could have, Goku agreed, surprising her with his sincerity. But part of my responsibility is making sure you don't have to. Before she could respond, Goku touched his communication device. Universal Nexus, alert Gohan and Krillin. Send them to Sadala Colony with a full support team. Priority 1. Acknowledged, came the system's response. Estimated arrival. 12 minutes via dimensional transit. We'll be dead in 12 minutes at this rate, Caulifla protested. No, Goku stated with simple confidence, you won't. Without further explanation, he placed his hand on her shoulder and used instant transmission again, this time locking onto the largest power signature he could sense on the attacking vessel. The command center vanished, replaced instantly by the bridge of the alien ship. Around them stood a dozen humanoid figures with blue-green skin and fiery orange hair. Their leader, Afima, whose power level significantly outmatched the others, sat in a command chair that seemed to pulse with biometric connection to the vessel itself. Her eyes widened momentarily at their sudden appearance before narrowing in recognition. Son Goku, she stated, her voice melodic despite the hard edge beneath it. The so-called sovereign of Universe 7. That's me, Goku confirmed, dropping his Han-D from Caulifla's shoulder and standing relaxed but ready. And you are. The woman rose from her chair with fluid grace that spoke of exceptional combat training. Zangya, last commander of the Hera Resurgence. Her gaze shifted to Caulifla with evident disdain. I see you've brought one of your pet monkeys. Pet. Caulifla's aura flared golden as she instantly transformed to Super Saiyan, but Goku raised a hand, stopping her advance. You're attacking a protected settlement, he said to Zangya, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. By my order, you will cease all hostile actions immediately. Laughter rippled through the bridge crew, all sharing similar features to their commander, though with significant variations in height and build. Zangya herself merely smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. Your order means nothing to us, Saiyan. The Hera Collective ruled this quadrant long before your kind learned to harness ki. She gestured dismissively. We're simply reclaiming what's ours. The Hera were wiped out centuries ago, Caulifla interjected. Everyone knows that. Not all of us. Zangya's smile vanished. Some survived, scattered across the universe. For generations, we've worked to rebuild our strength, our numbers, waiting for the right moment to reclaim our heritage. And you chose now? Goku asked, genuinely curious. When Universe 7 finally has unified protection? We chose now precisely because of you. Zangya stepped closer, seemingly unintimidated by his presence. The great sovereign, spreading his forces thin across billions of worlds. Establishing colonies like this one, isolated, vulnerable. Perfect targets for those who understand strategy. A barely perceptible shift in Zangya's stance warned Goku microseconds before she attacked. Her fist, glowing with concentrated energy, thrust toward his chest with speed that would have been invisible to ordinary eyes. But Goku simply wasn't there when the blow landed, having shifted slightly to the side. I don't want to fight you, he said as Zangya recovered, surprise evident in her expression. Unfortunate. Her smile returned, colder than before. Because of spent my entire life preparing to fight Saiyans. What followed happened too quickly for anyone else on the bridge to follow. Zangya launched a complex sequence of attacks, punches, kicks, energy projectiles that spoke of extensive combat training and natural talent. Her technique was flawless, her power level impressive by most standards in the universe. But Goku simply evaded, blocking when necessary, never counter-attacking. To Caulifla's enhanced Saiyan vision, it appeared almost as a dance, Zangya attacking with increasing ferocity while Goku moved with effortless grace, his expression remaining calm, almost appreciative. Stop toying with me, Zangya finally shouted, frustration breaking through her composed exterior. She gathered energy between her palms, forming a crackling sphere of destructive power. Fight back or die. I told you, Goku replied, still maddeningly calm, I don't want to fight you. I want to offer you a choice. What choice? She snarled, the energy sphere growing dangerously unstable between her hands. Join us or leave. Either way, the attack on Sadala ends now. Join you. Disbelief colored her voice. Serve the butchers who destroyed my people. The Ions who destroyed the Hera Collective are long dead, Goku said. These are different Saiyans from Universe 6, they have a different history, a different culture. They've never conquered anyone. Saiyans are Saiyans, Zangya spat. No. Goku's voice hardened slightly. People are individuals. Judging an entire race by the actions of their ancestors is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to endless cycles of violence. Something in his words seemed to reach her. The energy sphere between her hands flickered, stabilized, then slowly dissipated as she lowered her arms. Even if I wanted to accept your offer, she said carefully. My people need a home. Resources. Protection from those who would hunt us for bounties placed centuries ago. All things I can provide, Goku replied. As sovereign, Zangya studied him with eyes that had witnessed countless betrayals. Why would you help us after we attacked your colony? Because everyone deserves a second chance. Goku's expression softened. I've given them to people who've done far worse than you. A tense silence fell over the bridge, broken only when Caulifla snorted derisively. You can't seriously be considering negotiating with them. They killed 17 of our people. And how many of theirs would die if we continued this fight? Goku asked quietly. Violence only ends when someone chooses a different path. Zangya's posture shifted almost imperceptibly, still ready for combat, but marginally less hostile. You're not what I expected, Son Goku. I get that a lot. He offered a small smile. So what's it going to be, Commander Zangya? Peace or more pointless death? The decision that followed would alter the course of multiple civilizations. You gave them an entire moon. Vegeta's incredulous voice echoed through the council chamber of the Universal Nexus. After they attacked a Saiyan colony unprovoked. Technically, it's a planetoid in the same system, Bulma corrected, examining data on her tablet. And it's not without conditions. They've agreed to comprehensive monitoring, restricted weaponry, and participation in the Universal Defense Network. It's still absurdly lenient, Vegeta insisted, pacing with characteristic energy. The old Saiyan Empire would have obliterated them for such an offense. Which is exactly why we're not doing things the old way. Goku sat at the circular table that dominated the chamber, appearing remarkably comfortable in his role despite the formal setting. The Hera have knowledge and abilities that could benefit everyone, Vegeta. Fighting skills developed over centuries in hiding. Technology adapted from multiple cultures. Their bio-organic ship designs are particularly fascinating, Bulma added, her scientific curiosity evident. The neural interface they've developed could revolutionize our transportation systems. And what about justice for the 17 dead Saiyans? Piccolo asked from his position near the viewscreen displaying Sadala Colony. Though his tone remained neutral, the question carried weight. The Hera responsible for direct civilian casualties have been identified and will stand trial, Goku replied. Zangya agreed to that condition immediately. She doesn't protect murderers within her ranks. How noble of her, Vegeta muttered sarcastically. Before Goku could respond, the chamber doors slid open to admit Caulifla, Our expression thunderous despite the formal attire she'd been provided for the council meeting. Behind her walked Mai, the former resistance fighter now serving as security chief for the Universal Nexus. Sorry for the interruption, Mai said, her voice professional despite the obvious tension. Caulifla insisted on attending. That's fine, Goku nodded. She has a right to represent Sadala in these discussions. Damn right I do. Caulifla took an empty seat without invitation, her posture radiating defiance. Especially when you're giving away real estate to the people who just bombed us. Quote, I've explained the strategic advantages, Goku began. I don't care about strategy, Caulifla cut him off. I care about my people feeling safe. How am I supposed to tell them that the aliens who kill their friends and family are now going to be their neighbors? The question hung in the air, legitimate and challenging. Goku considered it seriously before answering. By telling them the truth, he said finally. That hatred only perpetuates more hatred. That the Hera were acting on centuries of pain inflicted by our ancestors. That breaking cycles of violence requires courage, more courage than continuing to fight. Pretty words, Caulifla scoffed. But words don't rebuild homes or bring back the dead. No, Goku agreed. Actions do. Which is why I've authorized immediate reconstruction. Assistance and additional defense systems for Sadala Colony. And, he glanced at Bulma, who nodded confirmation. We're establishing a training center there. The first Universal Defense Academy. His announcement silenced even Caulifla momentarily. The concept of a formalized training center for warriors across the universe, essentially a cosmic martial arts school, had been discussed theoretically but never approved. Why Sadala? She finally asked, suspicion evident but curiosity breaking through. Because Saiyans are naturally gifted teachers of combat, Goku explained. Because your colony needs economic development. And because putting the academy there makes it clear to everyone that Sadala is under my direct protection. Vegeta made a sound that might have been reluctant approval. It's not the worst idea you've had. Kakarot. High praise indeed, Bulma teased her husband before turning serious again. The academy would attract talent from across the universe, species with unique abilities. Fighting styles unknown even to Saiyans. The potential for advancement is remarkable. And you want me involved somehow, Caulifla deduced, her sharp mind cutting through to Goku's unspoken intention. As head instructor, he confirmed, no one is better qualified to oversee combat training. Your power level is exceptional, and you have experience teaching others to reach Super Saiyan. The offer clearly caught Caulifla off guard. Her habitual scowl faltered as she processed the implications: authority, respect, legitimate power rather than just the ability to destroy. I'll consider it, she said finally, trying and failing to sound unimpressed. Good. Goku turned to Mai. What's the status on those energy disturbances? Mai stepped forward, activating a holographic display above the table. A three-dimensional map of Universe 7 appeared, dotted with pulsing red markers. 27 distinct incidents in the past month, all showing similar energy signatures, Saiyan-like but distorted somehow. Any pattern to the locations? Piccolo asked, studying the display intently. Initially random, Mai replied, but our analysis shows they're gradually concentrating in this region. The display zoomed in on a particular quadrant where the markers clustered more densely. Specifically around the Dark Nebula. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. The Dark Nebu, was infamous even by cosmic standards, a region of space where peculiar gravitational phenomena distorted light, time, and occasionally reality itself. Few who ventured into its depths ever returned. That can't be coincidence, Bulma murmured. The nebula is less than 6 light-years from the original planet Vegeta's location before its destruction. Could it be survivors? Mai suggested. Oath. Saiyans who escaped Frieza's genocide. Vegeta shook his head definitively. Impossible. Any ordinary Saiyan would have died of old age by now. Besides, I was informed of every escape pod, every MI. Saiyan team off-planet when the destruction occurred. None were in that region. Then what? Caulifla leaned forward, intrigued despite her earlier hostility. Some kind of, I don't know, echo of the planet's destruction. Or something deliberately using Saiyan energy signatures to attract attention, Piccolo suggested ominously. A trap. Goku remained silent throughout this exchange, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he stood. Whatever it is, we need more information. I'm going to investigate personally. Kakarot, that's exactly what they want if it is a trap, Vegeta protested. Probably. Goku agreed with a hint of his old fighting spirit. But I can't send others to face danger I'm unwilling to confront myself. That's not how leadership works. At least take backup, Bulma insisted, concern evident in her voice. A full team with the latest equipment and a small team, Goku corrected gently. More agile, less detectable. Myself, Vegeta, and... He paused, considering. Caulifla. Me. Caulifla blinked in surprise. Why? Because you're one of the few Saiyans who can reach Super Saiyan 2 independently. Because you're not connected to my usual tactics, making you unpredictable to anyone who might be studying me. And because you deserve to be part of solving universal threats if you're going to lead the academy. Respect flickered briefly across Caulifla's features before her habitual scowl returned. Fine. When do we leave? Immediately, Goku replied. But first, I need to introduce you to someone. The detention level of the Universal Nexus was unlike any prison Caulifla had ever seen. Instead of cells, it contained a series of comfortable but monitored living quarters. The security was primarily energy-based, invisible barriers that could contain even the most powerful beings without the appearance of physical restraint. This is ridiculous, she muttered as they approached one such chamber. Either they're prisoners or they're not. This looks like a hotel. It's both, Goku explained. Most of our detainees are former enemies with valuable knowledge or abilities. Treating them with dignity increases the likelihood of rehabilitation and cooperation. Soft, Caulifla scoffed. In Universe 6, She stopped abruptly as the door slid open, revealing the chamber's occupant. Zangya sat cross-legged on a meditation mat, eyes closed in deep concentration. Her orange hair floated gently around her face as if underwater, energized by the controlled flow of ki through her body. Without opening her eyes, she spoke. Sovereign Goku, and the Saiyan woman from the bridge. To what do I owe this visit? We're assembling a team for a mission, Goku replied simply. I'd like you to join us. Zangya's eyes opened slowly, revealing irises of such deep blue they appeared almost black. You trust me enough for a mission. After our recent disagreement. Trust is earned through actions, Goku said. This is an opportunity for action. What's the mission? Zangya unfolded herself from the mat with fluid grace, rising to her feet in one smooth movement. Investigation of unusual energy signatures near the Dark Nebula. Potentially Saiyan in origin, potentially dangerous. And you want to take another Hera to a potential Saiyan threat. Zangya raised one elegant eyebrow. Either you're extraordinarily confident or extraordinarily foolish. Maybe both, Goku admitted with a small smile. But I think your people's experience hiding from Saiyan detection for centuries might be valuable where we're going. This is insane, Caulifla interjected. We can't trust her. She could betray us the moment we're away from the Nexus. She could, Goku agreed calmly. But she won't. How can you possibly know that? Caulifla demanded. Because betrayal would accomplish nothing. Goku's eyes remained fixed on Zangya. She's intelligent enough to recognize that her people's future depends on successful integration into the universal system now. Betraying us would condemn the Hera to perpetual isolation or destruction. Zangya's lips curved into a reluctant smile. Your assessment is accurate, if blunt. My quarrel was with Saiyan dominance. Not with the concept of universal cooperation. If serving on this mission advances the Hera's position within your new order, I would be remiss to decline. Good. Goku nodded once. We depart in 1 hour. You'll be provided appropriate equipment and a temporary deactivation of your power restrictions. As they left the detention level, Caulifla could no longer contain her objections. This is beyond reckless. You're taking 2 women who have every reason to hate Saiyans into potentially hostile territory without a full security team. Yes, Goku replied simply. Why? And don't give me that strategic nonsense again. What's the real reason? Goku stopped walking, turning to face her fully. For the first time, Caulifla felt the full weight of his attention, not as a fighter, but as the sovereign of an entire universe. With knowledge and perspective far beyond her own. Because leadership isn't about controlling people through force or fear, he said quietly. It's about giving them opportunities to become more than their past, more than their grievances. Zangya is brilliant, resourceful, and potentially a valuable ally, but only if we treat her like one. And if you're wrong, if she betrays us, then I'll handle it. The calm certainty in his voice wasn't a boast, it was simple fact. But I'm rarely wrong about people's hearts. Something in his words or his steady gaze made Caulifla feel suddenly defensive. As if he could see through the anger and defiance she'd cultivated as armor since childhood. Whatever, she muttered, looking away. It's your mission. Just dawn. Expect me to save you when this blows up in your face. Goku's laugh surprised her, genuine and warm. I never expect to be saved, Caulifla. But I've been surprised before. As he walked away, Caulifla found herself watching him with reluctant fascination. This wasn't the battle-obsessed Saiyan she'd fought in the Tournament of Power. This was someone more complex, more considered, but with that unshakable core of strength and optimism. It was annoying, and somehow compelling. Shaking off the thought, she headed toward the preparation area. Whatever this mission held, she'd face it as she faced everything, with fierce independence and the determination to prove herself the strongest warrior in any room. Even a room containing the sovereign of Universe 7. The Dark Nebula loomed before their ship like a storm front made of stars, swirling gases in deep purples and blacks, shot through with veins of crimson energy. Conventional navigation systems began failing the moment they entered its outermost boundaries. Quantum fluctuations disrupting even the most advanced technology. Fascinating. Bulma's voice came through the increasingly static-filled communication link. The nebula's subspace distortion field is even more powerful than our records indicated. We're losing telemetry from your vessel. How much longer will communications last? Goku asked, standing on the bridge between Caulifla and Zangya, all three watching the spectacular and ominous view through the main viewport. Uncertain. Minutes, perhaps seconds. Bulma's image on the viewscreen flickered dramatically. Goku, please reconsider. We can send probes, develop shielding technology. No time, he replied, his expression resolute. The energy signatures are increasing in frequency. Whatever's happening in there is accelerating. At least take a beacon. Bulma's image dissolved into static, her final words lost as communication failed completely. Silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines and the occasional alert from systems struggling against the nebula's influence. Well, Caulifla said with forced nonchalance, we're officially on our own in the creepiest part of space. Great leadership decision. Save your complaints for after the mission, Vegeta growled from the pilot's station. Assuming we survive. Such optimism, Zangya observed dryly. She stood slightly apart from the others, her blue-green skin contrasting sharply with the nebula's dark hues visible through the viewport. Though perhaps warranted, no Hera expedition into the dark nebula has ever returned. That's encouraging, Caulifla muttered. We're not just flying blind, Goku said, his calm unwavering. I can sense the energy disturbances more clearly now. They're concentrate. Approximately 70,000 kilometers ahead, near that larger formation. He pointed toward a particularly dense cluster of cosmic gases. Manual navigation is our only option now, Vegeta reported. Ted is another system failed with a shower of sparks. And I'm detecting increased gravitational fluctuations. Let me. Zangya moved toward the navigation console. Hera ships use biotechnology partially immune to these effects. I can adapt some of those principles to your systems. Vegeta looked to Goku, who nodded once. With evident reluctance, the Saiyan Prince moved aside, allowing Zangya access to the controls. Her fingers moved across the interface with practiced efficiency, bypassing safety protocols and reconfiguring systems in ways that made Vegeta's eyes narrow with suspicious admiration. There, she said after several minutes of work. It's crude, but it should allow basic maneuvering without complete system failure. Impressive, Goku acknowledged, earning a surprised glance from the Hera commander. Practical necessity, she replied coolly. I have no more desire to die in this cosmic aberration than you do. As Zangya resumed navigation, guiding the ship deeper into the nebula, Goku moved to stand beside Caulifla, who had been unusually quiet. You're sensing it too, aren't you? He asked softly. She nodded reluctantly. Since we entered the nebula's boundaries, it feels familiar somehow. Like Saiyan energy, but she struggled to find the right words. Older, rawer, like the legends of the first Super Saiyan, Vegeta interjected, his keen hearing having caught their conversation. The primal form of our power, unrefined by technique or training. Exactly, Caulifla agreed, momentarily forgetting her habitual hostility toward authority in the face of this mystery. But that's impossible. The original Super Saiyan lived thousands of years ago. Time works strangely in places like this, Zangya commented without looking up from her navigation work. The Dark Nebula has been known to preserve things beyond their natural lifespan. The implication hung in the air as the ship continued its journey, penetrating deeper into the cosmic maelstrom. Outside, gases swirled with increasing violence, occasionally parting to reveal glimpses of what appeared to be solid structures, fragments of asteroids, perhaps, or something more deliberate in design. Energy readings spiking, Vegeta announced suddenly, studying a monitor that fluctuated wildly between readings. Whatever we're approaching, it's massive. There, Goku pointed through a momentary clearing in the gases. Ahead loomed a structure that defied conventional description, part planetoid, part construct, with organic-looking extensions that reached out into the nebula like tentacles or roots. Its surface gleamed with a metallic sheen despite appearing partially composed of stone or bone. That's not natural, Caulifla stated the obvious, her voice hushed. No, Zangya agreed, equally subdued. It resembles descriptions from Hera mythology, The World Eaters, constructs created by ancient species to harness the energy of dying stars. Bringing us into orbit, Vegeta reported, his voice tense with concentration as he worked the semi-functional controls. Gravitational fields are unusual, not consistent with an object of this mass. As they approached, the structure's details became clearer and stranger. What had appeared to be random protrusions resolved into distinct architectural elements. Towers, arches, vast doorways scaled for beings far larger than themselves. And everywhere, carved into the very substance of the structure, symbols that triggered recognition in both Saiyans. That's ancient Saiyan script, Vegeta breathed, his usual bravado momentarily forgotten in genuine astonishment. Predating even our earliest historical records. How is that possible? Caulifla demanded. Saiyans didn't have interstellar travel until relatively recently in our history. Perhaps we did, Vegeta replied softly, and perhaps that knowledge was lost, or deliberately obscured. Before further discussion could occur, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blar. EDA's systems failed across all stations. We're caught in some kind of tractor beam, Zangya reported, fighting with the controls. Extremely powerful, unlike any technology I'm familiar with. Can we break free? Goku asked, bracing himself as the ship shuddered again. Negative. Engine power insufficient against this force. Then we don't fight it, Goku decided. Let it bring us in. But be ready for anything. The ship accelerated toward the structure, guided by invisible forces toward what appeared to be a vast opening in its side, a hangar or docking bay scaled for vessels many times their size. As they approached, lights activated along the perimeter of the opening, revealing more ancient Saiyan symbols glowing with internal energy. It's responding to our presence, Vegeta observed. Specifically, to Saiyan life signs. Quote, are luring us in, Zangya countered grimly. The ship passed through the massive opening, the nebula's chaotic energies suddenly blocked as if by a force field. Inside, the hangar extended farther than their sensors could detect, disappearing into darkness despite the illumination provided by regularly spaced energy columns. The architecture was both familiar, and alien, recognizably designed for humanoid use, but with proportions and aesthetics that felt disquietingly wrong somehow. With a final shudder, the ship settled onto a platform that appeared to rise from the floor to meet them. Power systems stabilized somewhat now that they were shielded from the nebula's effects, but communications remained dead. Atmosphere reads as breathable, Vegeta Rep. Ordered after checking the functioning sensors. Gravity approximately 1.3 times Earth standard. No immediate life signs detected beyond our ship. We need to investigate, Goku said, moving toward the exit. Vegeta, you and I will take point. Caulifla, watch our flanks. Zangya, you have the most experience with unknown environments, you're our technical expert for anything we encounter. The assignments were logical, acknowledging each person's strengths without room for argument. Even Caulifla merely nodded, the mystery before them temporarily overriding her instinct to challenge authority. As the airlock cycled open, they were met not with the staleness expected of an ancient, abandoned structure, but with air that smelled faintly of ozone and something organic, like wet earth after rain. The lighting remained low but adequate, creating pools of illumination surrounded by deep shadows. Spread out, but stay within visual contact, Goku ordered as they disembarked. Look for control systems, historical records, anything that might explain this place. They moved cautiously across the vast docking bay, their footsteps echoing despite attempts at stealth. The floor beneath them appeared to be made of a single piece of material resembling obsidian but warm to the touch and slightly resilient, like living tissue. This architecture, Vegeta murmured, examining a column inscribed with ancient symbols. It contains elements I recognize from myths. The Temple of Origins, said to be where the first Saiyans learned to harness ki. Your mythology mentioned temples in space? Zangya asked skeptically. No, Vegeta admitted. The legends placed the temple on the original Saiyan homeworld, before we migrated to planet Vegeta. But these symbols, these proportions, they're identical to the descriptions passed down through the royal bloodline. Guys, Caulifla called from several meters away, her voice tight with tension. You need to see this. They converged on her position, ere she stood before a wall that had appeared solid from a distance but now revealed itself to be a vast mural composed of some crystalline substance. Within its depths, Images moved, not like a video display, but as if actual events were happening inside the crystal itself, slowed to near immobility but still perceivable. What are we seeing? Goku asked, stepping closer to examine the mural. History, Vegeta breathed. Saiyan history, but not as I was taught. The images depicted humanoid figures clearly identifiable as Saiyans by their tails, engaged in what appeared to be a massive conflict. But instead of fighting other species, they battled amongst themselves. And the powers they wielded, they're all transformed, Caulifla observed incredulously. Not just Super Saiyan, but different variations. Some I don't even recognize. Indeed, the crystallized figures displayed a variety of transformations beyond the familiar golden hair of Super Saiyan, some with elongated features resembling the great ape form but in humanoid proportions, others with strange markings covering their bodies, still others surrounded by energy auras in colors none of them had ever witnessed in Saiyan transformations. A civil war, Vegeta surmised, his voice hollow with the weight of revelation. Between different Saiyan factions, each with their own approach to transformation. But when? Caulifla demanded. And why isn't this in our historical records? Because the victors write history. Came a new voice from behind them, feminine, melodic, yet carrying undertones that raised the hair on their necks. All four spun to face the speaker, dropping instantly into combat stances. Standing calmly in a pool of light where no one had been seconds before was a female Saiyan unlike any they had encountered. Tall and regal, her features bore the characteristic Saiyan hardness but refined to aristocratic precision. Her hair, rather than the typical black, shimmered with a silvery quality that caught the limited light. Most distinctively, her eyes glowed with a pale blue luminescence that suggested immense power held carefully in check. "Welcome, descendants," she said, her archaic accent mocking the common language sound musical and strange. "I am Azara, keeper of histories. And you have arrived exactly when prophecy foretold." Silence hung heavy for several heartbeats as the four warriors processed this unexpected development. It was Vegeta who recovered first, years of royal training asserting themselves even in this extraordinary situation. Prophecy, keeper of histories. His voice carried skepticism layered over obvious fascination. "Explain yourself." Azara smiled, a small expression that held neither warmth nor hostility, merely acknowledgement. "Direct, like all royal bloodline Saiyans. Your lineage shows clearly. Prince Vegeta, you know me." Vegeta failed to hide his surprise. "I know all who carry the blood of the ancient houses," Azara replied. Her luminous gaze shifted to each of them in turn. "Kakarot, of the House of Bardock, though you call yourself Goku now. Caulifla of Universe 6, descendant of the feral line. And," she paused, studying Zangya with evident curiosity. "A Hera, bearing the genetic modifications of the Bojack Collective. Unexpected, but not unwelcome. How could you possibly know our bloodlines?" Caulifla demanded, tension evident in her stance. "And what is this place?" "You stand within the Nexus Vault, the repository of all Saiyan knowledge predating the Sundering," Azara gestured around them. "As for how I know you, I have watched the universes since the Cataclysm, tracking bloodlines, monitoring events, waiting for the convergence that would bring the Sovereign to our threshold." Her gaze settled on Goku with unsettling intensity. "And now you are here. Exactly as foretold, the Saiyan who would transcend battle to become guardian of life itself." Goku had remained silent during this exchange, his expression uncharacteristically serious as he studied the mysterious Saiyan woman. "You're not physically present," he observed finally. "I can sense energy, but it's different. Dispersed." Azara's smile widened slightly. "Perceptive. My physical form was sacrificed during the Cataclysm. What you see is a consciousness projection, my mind preserved within the vault's systems, sustained by the unique energies of the Dark Nebula." "That's impossible," Vegeta stated flatly. "No Saiyan technology ever achieved consciousness preservation." "No modern Saiyan technology," Azara corrected. "Before the Sundering, before our civilization tore itself apart, we achieved wonders that would seem like magic to your understanding." "The civil war depicted in the crystal mural," Goku said, gesturing toward the frozen tableau behind them. "Yes." Sadness flickered briefly across Azara's ageless features. "The transformation war, when different approaches to harnessing our primal energy led to philosophical divisions, then to violence, then to near extinction." "What approaches?" Caulifla asked, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her suspicion. What were they fighting over? The fundamental nature of Saiyan power, Azara replied, moving closer to the mural. As she approached, the crystalline surface seemed to respond, the frozen images within shifting to show different scenes. Some believed our strength came from rage and pain, the fury path that eventually led to the traditional Super Saiyan transformation you know. The crystal showed warriors with the familiar golden aura, faces contorted with battle rage. Others believed our true potential emerged through perfect control and discipline, the void path. The images shifted to show Saiyans with a different transformation, their bodies covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with energy, expressions serene even in battle. Still others sought power through communion with our primal Uzaru nature, the beast path. Now the crystal displayed Saiyans who appeared to be hybrid forms between humanoid and great ape, maintaining intelligence while harnessing the raw power of the transformation. And finally, the smallest faction, the harmony path. Those who believed true power came from balance between all aspects of our nature. The crystal showed Saiyans whose transformations were subtle but profound, their auras containing elements of all the other approaches combined. Let me guess, Vegeta said dryly. Your faction lost. All factions lost, Azara corrected. The war destroyed our original homeworld, shattered our civilization. The survivors, primarily those who followed the Fury path, dispersed throughout the galaxy, eventually settling on planet Vegeta. In their bitterness, they erased the history of alternative approaches to transformation, teaching future generations that only through rage could true power be achieved. But you preserved the knowledge, Goku surmised, gesturing to their surroundings. All of it, here in this vault. Yes, Azara turned to face him fully. Because prophecy foretold that one day a Saiyan would arise who could master all paths, fury, void, beast, and harmony. One who would break the cycle of violence and lead not just Saiyans, but all beings toward a greater understanding of power's true purpose. That's why you've been sending out the energy signals, Zangyu spoke for the first time since Azara's appearance. To attract his attention. Precisely. Azara nodded appreciatively at the Hera's insight. As Sovereign Goku extended his awareness across Universe 7, I could finally reach him, send fragments of ancient Saiyan energy patterns to draw him here. Why now? Caulifla asked. Why not contact Goku years ago? Because only as Sovereign does he possess the authority and reach to implement what must come next. Azara replied. The restoration. Restoration of what? Vegeta asked sharply. Of balance. Azara's luminous eyes seemed to brighten. For too long, Universe 7 has suffered under the dominance of the Fury path. Strength without wisdom, power without purpose, battle without meaning. But now, with a sovereign who understands that true strength comes from protection rather than destruction, the ancient knowledge can finally be shared again. You want me to, what? Teach these alternative transformation methods? Goku asked. I want you to integrate them into your universal governance. Azara corrected. The academy you are establishing on Sadala Colony is the perfect vessel. Imagine warriors trained not just in combat, but in the full spectrum of energy mastery, Saiyans and non-Saiyans alike, learning approaches to power that complement their natural inclinations. The concept hung in the air between them, revolutionary, challenging, filled with both promise and danger. This knowledge was locked away for a reason, Vegeta cautioned, though his expression betrayed his fascination with the possibilities. Our ancestors feared these alternative paths. They feared what they didn't understand, Azara countered. And in their fear, they diminished what it truly means to be Saiyan. We were never meant to be merely destroyers, Prince Vegeta. We were meant to be guardians of life's evolution, catalysts for growth through challenge. Throughout this exchange, Goku had remained thoughtful, processing implications beyond the immediate revelation. Now he stepped forward, addressing Azara directly. There's more to this than teaching new transformation techniques, he stated rather than asked. What aren't you telling us? Azara's expression shifted subtly, respect mingled with caution. Perceptive indeed, Sovereign. Yes, there is more. She gestured, and a new image formed in the crystal mural, a shadowy figure whose features were obscured but O's power was palpable even in this frozen depiction. The sundering had consequences beyond Saiyan civilization's collapse. It created Instabilities in reality itself. What kind of instabilities? Khalifa asked, tension evident in her voice. Rifts between dimensions. Weakened boundaries between realms that should remain separate. Azara's voice took on a grave quality. And through one such rift, a being of immense power was drawn into your dimension, a being who found in Saiyan conflict the perfect energy source to sustain itself. A parasite, Zangya surmised, her tactical mind quickly grasping the implications. A consumer of battle energy, Azara corrected. It has remained dormant for millennia, feeding occasionally on conflicts throughout the universe. But recent events, the battles with Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, the tournament of power, have provided unprecedented nourishment. It stirs now, approaching full awakening. And let me guess, Vegeta said sardonically. Only the combined approaches of these different Saiyan transformation paths can defeat it. Not defeat, Azara shook her head. Contain. Return it to its proper dimension. And yes, that will require mastery. Of all four paths, something no single Saiyan has achieved since before the sundering. Goku exchanged glances with his companions, Vegeta skeptical but intrigued, Caulifla suspicious yet fascinated, Ngya analytically assessing strategic implications. In that moment of silent communication, a decision crystallized. Show us, Goku said simply. Everything you know about these transformation paths. And this interdimensional threat. Azara's luminous eyes seemed to brighten with something like relief. I had hoped you would say that, Sovereign. She raised her hands, and the environment around them shifted, the hangar dissolving. Replaced by what appeared to be a vast training chamber filled with holographic training equipment of designs none had seen before. Training will be required, she explained. Intensive and dangerous. The paths were not meant to be walked simultaneously by a single individual. Danger doesn't concern me, Goku replied with a hint of his old battle enthusiasm. But time might. How long until this interdimensional being fully awakens? Difficult to predict precisely, Azara admitted. The distortions in the dark nebula affect temporal perception. But based on recent energy consumption patterns. Months, perhaps a year at most. Not long enough for proper training, Vegeta observed grimly. Perhaps not for mastery of all paths, Azara agreed. But there is an alternative approach. Her gaze moved between the four warriors. Different individuals, each mastering the path best suited to their natural inclinations, working in perfect harmony. Understanding dawned on Goku's face. A team. Not one warrior mastering all paths, but four warriors, each specialized, fighting as one. Precisely. Azara nodded approvingly. The Sovereign, already versed in aspects of both the Fury and Harmony paths. The Prince, whose royal lineage gives him natural affinity for the Void path. The Feral One, she indicated Caulifla, whose unbridled potential aligns with the Beast path. And, her gaze settled on Zangya with curious intensity, the outsider, whose Hera biology might allow for unique adaptations of these Saiyan techniques. You expect me to participate in Saiyan mysticism? Zangya's tone was incredulous. Against a threat I have no verification even exists. The threat exists, Vegeta stated with surprising conviction. I can sense the truth in her words, if not all the details. This explains disturbances I've felt for months but couldn't identify. Besides, Caulifla added unexpectedly, you're already here. What else are you going to do? Wait on the ship. The challenge was clear, and Goku noted with interest how effectively it worked on the proud Hera commander. Zangya's posture straightened, her expression hardening with determination. I will observe these techniques, she said carefully. If they prove compatible with Hera biology, I will consider participation. Excellent. Azara seemed genuinely pleased by this partial commitment. Then let us begin with assessments to determine each of your natural affinities. What followed was unlike any training session any of them had experienced before. Azara's consciousness projection guided them through a series of exercises designed to measure not just power levels, but the quality and nature of their energy manipulation. Holographic equipment monitored subtle aspects of their key that conventional training had never addressed: resonance frequencies, harmonic patterns, dimensional anchoring. Hours passed in intensive evaluation, each warrior pushing their limits in ways that challenged not just their bodies but their fundamental understanding of their own power. By the time Azara called for a rest period, All four were exhausted but vibrating with the excitement of new discovery. The results are promising, she announced as they gathered in what had manifested as a recovery chamber, with comfortable seating and nutrient-rich refreshments that materialized from seemingly nowhere. Each of you shows strong potential in your predicted path, with secondary affinities that will strengthen your team dynamic. Tell us specifically, Vegeta demanded between bites of a strange fruit that tasted like nothing he'd encountered before but perfectly restored his energy. You, Prince Vegeta, show exceptional aptitude for the void path as expected. Your royal training in emotional control, combined with your experience with God Ki, provides an ideal foundation. With proper instruction, you could achieve void ascension within months rather than years. Vegeta nodded, unsurprised but pleased by the assessment. Caulifla's results are particularly fascinating, Azara continued. Her Universe 6 Saiyan genetics show adaptations that actually enhance beast path potential. The absence of tails in her evolutionary line has internalized the Uzaru energy, making controlled manifestation potentially easier. Wait, Caulifla frowned. You're saying I can access Eat Ape power without actually transforming into one? Precisely. The beast path is not about external transformation, but about harmonizing with the primal Saiyan essence that manifests as the Uzaru in those with tails. Your biology has already begun this harmonization naturally. Caulifla's expression shifted from skepticism to intrigue. That sounds worth exploring. As for Zangya, Azara turned to the Hera commander. Your results are unexpected but promising. Hera biology shares certain fundamental key structures with ancient Saiyans, likely due to evolutionary convergence in response to similar environmental pressures. You show potential for a modified form of the harmony path, utilizing Hera energy manipulation techniques as a foundation. Zangya's surprise was evident, though he quickly masked it with practiced composure. And what advantage would this modified harmony path provide? Integration of disparate energy types, Azara explained. The ability to synchronize with the other three paths, amplifying their effectiveness while maintaining your unique Hera abilities. In essence, you would be the connective tissue of the team's power structure. The strategic implications of this role were not lost on the experienced commander. Zangya nodded thoughtfully, her initial skepticism visibly diminishing. And me? Goku asked finally, having listened to the others' assessments with uncharacteristic patience. Azara's luminous gaze settled on him with particular intensity. You, Sovereign Goku, present a unique case. Your energy signature shows influence from all four paths, developed instinctively throughout your life without formal training. Your mastery of the Fury path through Super Saiyan transformations is evident, but you've also unknowingly touched CTS of the others, the Void path through Ultra Instinct, the Beast path through your unique relationship with your Uzaru form, and the Harmony path through your natural ability to adapt and integrate diverse techniques. So what's my role in this team structure? Goku pressed, sensing she was building towards something significant. Catalyst, Azara stated simply. While the others specialize in their respective paths, you will learn to channel and direct their combined energies, not merely adding their power to your own, but creating something entirely new. A unified force greater than the sum of its parts. The concept hung in the air between them, revolutionary, challenging conventional understanding of how Ki worked, yet somehow resonating with truths Goku had glimpsed throughout his life of battle and transformation. This is why you needed the Sovereign specifically, Zangya observed with quick insight. Not just any powerful Saiyan could serve as catalyst. Correct. Azara nodded approvingly. The role requires not just immense personal power, but the ability to perceive and harmonize with the energy of others, to lead not through domination but through elevation. Qualities Goku has demonstrated consistently, culminating in his current role. And this unified force, Vegeta asked, strategic mind already calculating applications, what form does it take? What are its limitations? That, Azara smiled enigmatically, is something not even I can predict with certainty. The ancient texts speak of a prismatic ascension, when the four paths unite properly, but its exact end would depend on the specific individuals involved. In other words, Caulifla summarized bluntly, we're testing a theoretical technique against a dimensional monster that might destroy the universe. Fantastic. Would you prefer a more conventional approach against an unconventional threat? Azara countered mildly. Before Caulifla could respond, A distant alarm echoed through the chamber, startling all 4 warriors. Azara's expression shifted from composed to concerned. "Perimeter breach," she announced. "Something has penetrated the vault's outer defenses." "The interdimensional entity?" Vegeta asked sharply, already rising to his feet. "No." Azara's form flickered momentarily as she apparently divided her attention between them and monitoring systems elsewhere. Different energy signature, but familiar somehow. Moving quickly through the lower levels. "We need to investigate," Goku decided immediately. "Azara, can you guide us to the breach point?" "Yes, but..." Her form flickered again, more violently this time. "Unusual energy patterns, affecting my projection stability. Be cautious." The training chamber dissolved around them, replaced by their original location near the crystal mural. A directional indicator materialized, a pulsing line of light along the floor leading toward a distant corridor. "Follow that," Azara instructed, her voice now coming from all around them rather than her increasingly unstable projection. "I will monitor as best I can, but something about this intrusion is interfering with vault systems." The 4 warriors moved with practice. Coordination despite having never fought together before, Goku and Vegeta taking point, Caulifla covering their flanks, Zangya watching their rear. They followed the guiding light through corridors. Hats seemed to shift subtly as they passed, the ancient structure responding to their presence in ways both helpful and disorienting. The breach originated in Section 12, Azara's disembodied voice informed them. Growing fainter as they progressed deeper. An area containing temporal anomaly research from before the Sundering. Time travel technology. Bulma would have a field day, Vegeta muttered. "Not exactly," Azara replied. Her voice now barely audible. "More like temporal energy harvesting, studying how battle power fluctuates across timelines." Her voice faded completely as they entered a vast chamber unlike any they'd encountered so far. Where the rest of the vault had featured the clean, if alien, lines of advanced technology, this space appeared almost primitive, circular. With rough stone walls inscribed with symbols that pulsed with an unsettling reddish light. At the chamber's center stood a raised platform surrounded by what appeared to be ceremonial pillars, carved with representations of Saiyans in various transformative states. And on the platform, examining one of the pillars with evident fascination, stood a figure that caused all 4 warriors to stop in shock. "Impossible," Vegeta breathed. The figure turned slowly at their entrance, revealing features that sent a chill through even Goku's battle-hardened spirit. It appeared to be a Saiyan, but unlike any they had encountered before. His face bore a striking resemblance to Goku's own, but distorted, eyes too wide and gleaming with unnatural malice, mouth fixed in a rictus grin that spoke of madness rather than joy. His body was covered in what appeared to be battle armor of ancient design, but it seemed to have fused with his flesh in places, creating a disturbing hybrid of biology and technology. Most disturbing of all was his energy signature, undeniably Saiyan at its core, but twisted, fragmented, as if pieces of multiple warriors had been forcibly combined into a single, unstable entity. Well, the figure spoke, his voice an unsettling echo of Goku's own but layered with other tones beneath it. The prophecy was true after all. The sovereign has arrived. He performed a mocking bow. "How convenient for my plans." "Who are you?" Goku demanded, instinctively shifting into a defensive stance that the others mirrored. The figure's grin widened impossibly further. "Don't you recognize me, Kakarot? Or should I say, brother?" Understanding dawned on Vegeta's face first. "Churls. But you died years ago. Kakarot destroyed you." "Churls." The figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Yes. He's in here somewhere." He tapped his own temple. "Along with Raditz, Nappa, Paragus, Brawly, so many Saiyans, their power assimilated, their consciousness subdued but not eliminated. Fragments of warriors across multiple timelines, harvested and combined." "That's impossible," Caulifla stated, though her voice betrayed uncertainty. "No technology could combine fighters from different timelines." "No modern technology," the figure corrected, gesturing to the chamber around them. "But the ancients, they understood that Saiyan power transcends conventional dimensional boundaries. That with the right approach, the right rituals, the right sacrifices." His grin took on a hungry quality. "Anything becomes possible. You're the dimensional entity Azara warned us about," Goku realized. "The one feeding on battle energy." "Entity," Yes, dimensional. The figure shrugged, the motion unnaturally fluid. I suppose that's partially accurate. Though I prefer to think of myself as evolution incarnate. The next stage of Saiyan development. He spread his arms, and the air around him seemed to ripple with distortion. You can call me Chaos. It's as good a name as any for what I've become. Whatever you are, Vegeta growled, you're trespassing in a facility under universal protection. Surrender now. Chaos laughed again, that same discordant sound that set their nerves on edge. Surrender. To whom? The fallen prince. The soft-hearted sovereign. The Universe 6 pretender. His gaze settled on Zangya with unsettling intensity. Or perhaps the Hera whore who bet. Raid her people's legacy to serve Saiyans. Zangya's composed expression never faltered, but her energy signature flared with controlled rage. Provocation through insults. The tactic of those without strategic advantage. Clever girl. Chaos smiled appreciatively. But wrong. I have every advantage. He gestured to the pillars surrounding the platform. Do you know what these are? Chronal siphons. Designed to extract and store battle energy across multiple timelines simultaneously. For millennia they've been gathering power, waiting for the perfect vessel. He placed a hand against his chest. Me. So what's your plan? Goku asked, buying time as he subtly signaled the others to spread out, surrounding the platform. Absorb our power too. Add us to your collection. Oh, much more ambitious than that, Sovereign. Chaos's voice took on an almost conversational tone, as if discussing philosophy rather than apparent universal domination. You see, I've studied your new governance structure. Quite impressive, actually. Universal diplomatic networks, defense systems, communication relays, all centered around your leadership. He stepped forward, approaching the edge of the platform closest to Goku. But it has a fundamental flaw. It depends on you, your vision, your power, your naive belief that peace can be maintained without domination. Remove you, replace you with me, and the entire system becomes something else entirely. A weapon, Vegeta concluded grimly. You want to convert Kakarot's universal governance into a power collection system. Precisely. Chaos clapped his hands in mocking approval. The prince always did have a strategic mind. Yes, imagine it. Billions of beings across Universe 7, their energies not just monitored but harvested. Their conflicts, their struggles, their very lives feeding into a system designed to elevate a single being to godhood. That's insane, Caulifla interjected. The Xenos would never allow it. The Xenos. Chaos's expression shifted to one of genuine amusement. Those childish entities care nothing for how universes are governed, only that they provide entertainment. And I assure you, my version of universal governance would be quite entertaining. Throughout this exchange, Goku had been carefully analyzing their opponent, not just his power level, which was concerning enough, but the strange fluctuations in his energy signature. Now he made his decision. Whatever you're planning, he stated firmly, it ends here. This knowledge, this place, it's meant to help life flourish, not to create monsters. And who decides what knowledge is permitted? Sovereign. Chaos's voice took on a dangerous edge. Who determines which paths are walked, which powers are developed? The ancient Saiyans nearly destroyed Thames. Elves fighting over precisely that question. His grin returned, more predatory than ever. Perhaps history is simply repeating itself. Without warning, he moved, not the straightforward attack they had anticipated, but a complex sequence of gestures toward the pillars surrounding him. As his hands traced patterns in the air, the symbols carved into the stone began to glow with increasing intensity. And the air itself seemed to thicken with power. Chronal extraction initiated, he announced, his voice overlapping with others, echoes of the warriors whose fragments composed his being. Let's see how you fare against power drawn from every major Saiyan battle across 1,000 timelines. The chamber erupted in chaos. Energy cascaded from the pillars in torrents of crimson light, swirling around Chaos like a living tempest. His form began to shift, expanding, contracting, features blurring as if multiple versions of himself were trying to occupy the same space simultaneously. The power radiating from him doubled, tripled, continuing to grow at an alarming rate. We need to disrupt the pillars. Vegeta shouted over the roaring energy storm. Attack pattern Sigma. Without hesitation, the four warriors launched coordinated attacks, energy blasts aimed not at Chaos directly, but at the chronal siphons feeding him power. Their key signatures harmonized instinctively, as if the brief trainee ing with Azara had already begun forging the connections necessary for their combined approach. But before their attacks could reach the targets, reality itself seemed to bend around chaos. Their energy blasts slowed, redirected, some even reversing course completely to scatter the attacking warriors. Time manipulation, Zangya called out, recovering first as her hero reflexes allowed her to adapt quickly to the strange conditions. He's bending temporal flow in localized fields. Correct again, Chaos's voice boomed, now carrying harmonic undertones that vibrated through their bodies painfully. A minor application of chronal energy. Would you like to see more? He gestured sharply, and Vegeta suddenly found himself moving at a fraction of normal speed, caught in what appeared to be a bubble of altered time. Another gesture, and Caulifla's movements accelerated to blur-inducing velocity, her own attacks becoming dangerously uncontrolled as she struggled to adjust to the heightened temporal flow around her. We need to synchronize, Goku shouted, remembering Azara's words about their complementary paths. Focus on your natural affinities. Understanding flashed across his companions' faces. Even in crisis, the brief training session had given them insight into their specific strengths within the ancient Saiyan power systems. Vegeta, trapped in the slow time field, closed his eyes and turned the disadvantage to opportunity. Rather than fighting the temporal distortion, he embraced stillness, the core principle of the void path. His aura shifted from its typical blue to a deeper, more profound indigo, pulsing with controlled intensity rather than raw power. The slow time field around him began to harmonize with his energy rather than constraining it. Caulifla, struggling with hyper-accelerated movements, instinctively reached for the beast path techniques Azara had outlined. Her chaotic energy consolidated, her aura shifting to a burnished copper tone with undertones of deep red. Her movements, while still blindingly fast, gained purpose and precision as she channeled the instinctual perfection of the Uzaru nature rather than fighting against it. Zangya, observing these transformations with tactical awareness, recognized her opportunity. Extending her hands toward both Saiyans, she implemented the modified harmony path techniques, not fully transformed, but effectively channeling the principles. Her typical energy signature expanded, taking on an iridescent quality that reached out like tendrils toward her companions, creating bridges between their disparate energy types. Goku, at the center of the formation, watched this spontaneous implementation of Azara's teachings with growing hope. Without conscious planning, his companions had begun forming exact L.Y. the energy configuration needed for his catalyst role. Now he needed to complete the circuit. Drawing on the familiar Fury path that had served him throughout his life, Goku powered up to Super Saiyan Blue. Then, rather than pushing further along that single transformation line, he reached simultaneously for the other paths, the stillness of void he had touched through Ultra Instinct, the instinct tool power of beast he had known in his Uzaru transformations, and the integrative potential of harmony he had practiced unconsciously in his lifetime of adapting others' techniques. His aura flickered, destabilized, then began to shift through a spectrum of colors, gold to blue to indigo to copper to iridescent white, cycling faster as he struggled to balance the conflicting energies. Chaos observed this development with initially dismissive amusement that gradually shifted to concern. Impressive, he acknowledged, but ultimately futile. You cannot master in moments what took the ancients' lifetimes to develop. We don't need mastery, Goku replied through gritted teeth as he fought to maintain the energy balance. We just need enough to disrupt your connection to the chronal siphons. With that declaration, he reached out with his fluctuating aura, connecting with the energy bridges Zangya had established to Vegeta and Caulifla. The effect was immediate and dramatic, all four warriors' auras synchronized, their colors harmonizing into a singular prismatic energy that flowed between them like a living circuit. For a moment, perfect balance was achieved, Vegeta's void stillness providing stability, Caulifla's beast instinct providing raw power, Zangya's harmony providing connection, and Goku's catalytic presence binding it all together. The resulting energy surge manifested as a shockwave that expanded outward in all directions simultaneously, disrupting the chronal fields chaos had established. No, he snarled, his composed facade cracking as he felt his connection to the pillars weaken. You cannot interfere with processes you don't understand. But the prismatic energy continued to expand, washing over the chronal siphons and disrupting their operation. The crimson energy feeding into chaos stuttered, fluctuated, then began to diminish. Seizing the opportunity, Goku directed their combined power toward their opponent, not as an attack, but as a containing force, emptying to isolate him from the temporal energies he was harvesting. Chaos fought back with desperate intensity, drawing on the substantial power he had already absorbed. The chamber became a battleground, wound of conflicting energies, prismatic light against corrupted crimson, order against chaos, unified purpose against fragmented identity. For several moments, the outcome hung in perfect balance, neither force gaining advantage. Then, unexpectedly, Chaos smiled, a terrible expression of triumph despite his apparent setback. "Enough demonstration for today, I think," he announced, his voice once again controlled and mocking. "You've shown me exactly what I needed to see." Before any of them could respond, he made a complex gesture with both hands. The air around him fractured like breaking glass, creating what appeared to be a tear in reality itself. Through the opening, distorted landscapes could be glimpsed, fragments of places and times that should not exist together. "Consider this a preview, Sovereign," Chaos called as he stepped backward toward the dimensional rift. "When next we meet, I'll have had time to analyze your precious path integration and develop countermeasures. Until then, enjoy your borrowed authority while it lasts." "Stop him," Vegeta shouted, launching himself forward despite the lingering effects of the slow time field. But Chaos was already half immersed in the rift, his form beginning to blur at the edges as he phased between dimensions. "Oh, and give my regards to Azara," he added with a final mocking grin. "Tell her the last disciple remembers her teachings well." With those enigmatic words, he vanished completely into the rift, which sealed behind him with a sound like thunder. The chronal siphons, now disconnected from their user, powered down in cascading sequence, leaving the chamber in relative darkness illuminated only by the warriors' still active auras. For several moments, they maintained their positions, alert for any sign that Chaos's disappearance was merely a tactical feint. When none came, they gradually powered down, their unprecedented energy synchronization fading as each returned to their normal state. "What?" Caulifla demanded between heavy breaths. "The actual hell was that?" "A problem," Vegeta replied grimly. "A significant one." He called himself the last disciple, Zangya noted, her tactical mind already analyzing the encounter. An implied familiarity with Azara. "We need to get back to her," Goku decided. "She clearly knows more about this chaos than she initially shared." As if in response to his words, Azara's projection materialized nearby, flickering, unstable, but present. Her luminous eyes held an emotion none of them had seen in her before: fear. "You survived," she observed with evident relief. "But he escaped." "You know him," Goku stated rather than asked. "The last disciple. What didn't you tell us?" Azara's projection stabilized somewhat as the chamber's systems recovered from the temporal disruption. "Not what? Who? I didn't tell you who he was, before." "Before he became that thing," Vegeta surmised. "Yes." Azara's voice held ancient sorrow. "Before the transformation war, before the sundering. He was my most gifted student. The only Saiyan who showed potential to master all four paths simultaneously." "Your student?" Caulifla's tone was incredulous. "That monster used to be your student?" "Not just my student." Azara's projection flickered again, her form momentarily revealing a younger version of herself, still regal, but without the ethereal quality of her current manifestation. "My son." The revelation landed heavily in the already charged atmosphere of the chamber. Goku stepped forward, facing Azara's projection directly. "Tell us everything," he said quietly. "No more secrets, no more prophecies, just the truth, if we're going to have any chance against him." Azara's ageless features showed the weight of millennia of solitude and regret. "Yes, Sovereign, you've earned that much." She gestured, and the chamber around them began to shift again, not to another location, but transforming to display holographic scenes from the ancient past. "Before the sundering, I was Archsage of the Harmony Path," she began as images of a thriving Saiyan civilization formed around them, cities of impossible architecture, technology integrated seamlessly with natural environments. Saiyans of various appearances living in apparent peace. "My son, Calyx," showed unprecedented aptitude for energy manipulation from early childhood. By adolescence, he had mastered ASPE, CTS of all 4 transformation paths when most struggled to progress in even one. The images shifted to show a young Saiyan male with Azara's aristocratic features, training in what appeared to be advanced energy techniques under the guidance of various masters. His talent was matched only by his ambition. Azara continued as the images progressed, showing the young Saiyan growing older, his training becoming more intense, more experimental. When conventional teachings proved insufficient for his appetite for power, he began developing his own approaches, techniques that broke fundamental taboos regarding temporal energy manipulation. The chronal siphons, Zhangya surmised. His creation. Yes. Azara nodded grimly as the holographic narrative showed the now-adult Calyx developing the very pillars they had just encountered. He theorized that Saiyan transformations created energy ripples through time itself, that by harvesting these ripples from multiple points simultaneously, one could achieve power beyond conventional limits. But something went wrong. Goku guessed, watching as the holographic scenes took a darker turn. Experiments gone awry, destructive energy surges, Calyx becoming increasingly isolated from other Saiyans. Everything went wrong, Azara corrected. The chronal siphons worked too well. They didn't just harvest energy, they began thinning the barriers between timelines. Calyx's consciousness started fragmenting, experiencing multiple potential versions of himself simultaneously. In his desperation to stabilize his condition, he attempted a forbidden technique: consciousness fusion with temporal duplicates of himself. The holographic display. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Move plot ahead. Blank, _ blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.